Welcome to the W2 Review. I am the Oakland Knight, and joining me from the LA studio, as always, is Raider Pirate. What's up, Pirate?
What's going on, Raider Nation?
All right, Raider Nation. This week we are kicking off our new regular season style format where we are going to be talking offense on Mondays, defense on Tuesdays, and we'll be covering the press conferences on Wednesdays as we head into our next week matchups. So to get things started tonight, Pirate, let's talk a little bit about the offense. What you got for us today?
Well, we thought that we would just kind of cover the offense in whole, how they did, what we were kind of expecting, and where we think that they're at. Of course, granted, it was the first preseason game, so everybody's going to be a little bit rusty. The referees are going to be rusty. The quarterback's going to be rusty. Everybody's going to be rusty. You've been playing against your own guys. Maybe you scrimmage a little bit against another team. But the bottom line is that this is the real bullets. This is guys coming out and they're hitting you as hard as they can. They're not trying to stop. Nobody's wearing a red jersey. And your job is to go out there and to try to play as fast as you can, protect yourself, not get injured, execute the offense. That being said, I think that this offense looked really, really good. We talked about it on the after show. I think Amari Cooper, if there was two things that happened on that initial opening drive. I think that Derek Carr didn't have to speed it up and get that ball off. I think there was plenty of space there for him to make that throw. And that's going to come with time, him learning that this offense is going to protect him. And then basically him throwing the ball a little high and to the left. Amari Cooper, yes, he could have dragged his feet in. He could have extended his body. He could have done this. He could have done that. But let's face it, the ball was high and outside. But he had beaten his man badly. This was the starters for the Arizona Cardinals, and that would have been a very big play. I can't talk on it very much in terms of the starters because, as I said, I didn't get to see that portion of the game. They blocked it out here. I had to drive over to see the second half of the game. But when it comes to the second half of the game, I thought McGloin did a decent job. I thought he made some plays and left some plays on the field. Andre Holmes made some plays, left some plays on the field. Clive Walford got wide open. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of that come the regular season. The offensive line, I think, did a good job. I was surprised that we didn't come out and set the tempo trying to run the ball. I thought it was questionable in my mind that we didn't just kind of come out, Lee Smith and this offensive line, and get Latavius Murray in there and put a fullback in there and just try to run at these guys. I totally understand that that's not what you want to do against a team like this. Most 3-4 teams are going to be fairly good against the run. But I still just would have liked to see it. I would have liked to gauge, where this offensive line was. Would they create holes and things like that? I thought we ran the ball a little bit better in the second half, and then we ran the ball incredibly in the third and fourth quarters. Once again, it's our fourth string running back and our third string line against Arizona's fourth string defense. So is that going to happen, first series against Green Bay or against New Orleans? Obviously not. But I thought that they were able to score points. They controlled the tempo for the majority of the game.
Yeah.
The return game was great. And I thought overall, I saw what I wanted to see, a young quarterback in Connor Cook that didn't seem like he was lost, made some good plays. Matt McGloin coming in and scoring some points was good to see. And I figured that, the first game in preseason with the starters only getting a series or two was going to be rough against this particular defense. All of those things pretty much came out to be true.
Yeah, no, I thought the game to be very interesting, and fortunately enough for us, I was able to watch the first part of the game, and There's been a lot of criticism going on, whether it's been about quarterbacks or the running game and things of that nature. But we talked about it in the preview show for the game that Arizona's defense is not nothing to take lightly. I mean, these guys are projected to go to the Super Bowl, and even though they had a starting cornerback out and they had Brandon Williams in there to start it off, I mean, we saw the struggles, but it's the first preseason game, so we can't really bank too much in on the whole picture, right? Or certain individual players and things of that nature. But it was very interesting because I was looking at the snap counts and, just to clarify, the quarterback position, I just really want to touch base on one simple fact. Number one is I think all of them did exactly what they were supposed to do to hold their ground. I don't think nobody outplayed anybody to the point where the depth chart should even be questioned. For one, it's the first preseason game. And for two, I mean, no one really outperformed anybody in the situations of, Carr going against the ones, McGloin going against the two, and Connor Cook playing against the threes and fours. I think they all kind of held their own and did what they were supposed to do as where they landed on the depth chart. So I thought that was a definite positive, and we'll get into that as we start to head into the Green Bay game. But the running game situation is something that I want to see more from. On a high note, when you look at the numbers, everybody averaged at least 5 yards rushing or close to it. That is more than enough average to be efficient if we could do it consistently. Latavius Murray had close to those numbers last year, but the running game as a whole wasn't consistent. So I agree with you. I think I want to see more from this offensive line, especially from the running game. And I believe that, a couple of running backs definitely stood out. We saw what Washington was going to bring to the table. We saw an emerging contender, I'm going to use that word, contender, in GA3 because, our running game, there's a lot of question marks there. We need to get it right this year. So as we move forward, we need more than just DeAndre Washington to step up. I mean, if it's GA3, if it's Jalen Richards, which we're not going to see until the Tennessee game, as it stands right now, the door's wide open for these guys to compete. And we saw that in this game, which I was excited about. Defensively, I saw some great things. I saw some great things from the defensive line. I saw some shaky things from the defensive line. Basically, what I'm getting at is we saw a little bit of everything. What you really expect from your first preseason game, you're going to see some rust. Man, this is the first live competition we've had. I mean, practice, you're not allowed to hit the quarterback. Sometimes you're in pads, sometimes you're not in pads. Most of the time, you're not in pads. So that really slows your progression down. And it's really hard these days with all the new rules the CBA has against players practicing in pads to get the exact feel of what they are going to do when the lights come on and the games matter, even in preseason, just for a little bit. Because, we could sit here and talk about all of our big stars, Khalil Mack, Reggie Nelson, Sean Smith, Amerson, Carr, Cooper, Crabtree, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, these guys, they got to play well enough to hold their positions, but they don't really have to perform. And I think we saw that for the first time in a long time. Our starters, especially on offense and defense, actually, they only played 2 series and then they yanked them. They weren't going to mess around and get these guys hurt. So as we look forward to what we're going to see, you're looking at the depth. You want to see these young guys, our newly drafted players, our newly added players that are trying to fight for a roster spot, go full speed and hit people straight on. So that's what we were seeing, and I thought we got enough out of preseason game 1. Now, when we did the live show, I know there was a lot of comments in the comment section. Hey, man, it's just preseason. No, trust me, we talked about it in a previous daily review show last week. It is just preseason, but we talked about the value of preseason. There's more to it than we give it credit for. Now, as fans, we want starters. We want the best of the best. We want to see them for 4 quarters and be excited. But this is a time for us to take a look at these young players, and I think that we got a good chance because of the way our team is set up. Finally, we got a really good hard look at guys like Cowser and Calhoun and Corey James on defense, and we got to look. I'd like to see some of these wide receivers get more involved in the second half to showcase their ability. The running back stole the spotlight, and that's fine because that's still a positive. But we saw some great things from Connor Cook, so we were able to really see these young guys perform. And moving forward, I hope they stick to the same MO, with the exception of the Tennessee game, where you could get up to almost a half with your starters, just to kind of, that's their dress rehearsal warm up. So any final thoughts on that part of it, Pirate?
Well, I mean, I think it's a little important to sort of look at the stats and to try to figure out, if you just look at the stats and you thought this was a regular season game, you would think that the Arizona Cardinals obviously were a much better football team than what it appeared like they were.
Right.
They had 22 first downs compared to the 10 first downs that we had. So that kind of tells you that this is a seasoned offense moving against a defense that is trying to figure itself out. And then it shows that we had a offense that has been together for pretty much only a year, going against a seasoned defense that's been together for a long time. So those numbers kind of match up. Again, I was not expecting us to have 22 first downs and the Cardinals to have 10.
Correct.
Right? That would be a big surprise. You look at third down efficiency. We were 3 for 12, but they were only 5 for 16. They were making a lot of plays. They were moving the ball down the field, but when it mattered, our defense was able to stop them, and we'll get into that tomorrow. But on our side of the ball, we were 3 for 12 also. So that means that we weren't doing very good converting first downs. And Derek Carr came out and spoke about that afterward, the delay of games and, not making the types of plays that were there, overthrowing. He said he took those things personally. And he looked really serious about it. He's got a look in his eye this year, I think, that's a lot different than I saw in him, last year. He's much more serious about it, and he understands, what it's going to take. You take a look as a team, they were 15 for 29, but only 5.4 yards per pass. But then again, you look at the Cardinals, 15 for 40. Only 5.1 yards per pass, and they had 2 interceptions.
Correct.
Rushing the ball, we had 166 yards rushing, but they had 172 yards rushing.
See?
Right? So, again, but then take a look. Penalties. Raiders, 11 for 86 yards. Cardinals, 3 for 20. Okay? Time of possession, only 24 minutes and 38 seconds, which is still, pretty good. You want to get as close to 30 as possible. Cardinals 35 and 35-22. So when you looked at the total yards for both of these teams in terms of their offense, Oakland had 322 yards. That's good. That's
Sure.
really good. Now, those numbers are padded by the running game. Arizona's were padded more or less with their passing game, but they ran the ball extremely well as well.
Correct.
So the difference was the turnovers, 3 turnovers, and we only had the 1 turnover. Andre Holmes fumbling that ball when he should have just went down. So once again, that's something that they're going to have to improve on. 10 first downs in a game is not going to get it. Arizona having 22 looks much more like the methodical machine that we're looking to be. So, from a statistical perspective, I think there's some things that they know that they've got to work on. And as long as they start putting those things together, and again, we're going to see this week coming up, we're going to see the offense if Carr struggles again early on like he did last season. Again, people are going to begin questioning, particularly if McGloin has a good game and Cook has a good game moving into that Tennessee game. So those are the things that I kind of took out of the offense, and we're going to get more into the individual players. But
Right.
I think all in all, the first downs and the score are not, they don't match up.
No.
But I'll take it.
No, and you got to look at it from this standpoint, and this will be my final thought before we go to break. We had you look at the situation, the numbers that Pirate just read with the 11 or 10 first downs versus 22, and you look at the score and you're like, how do we win 31-10? Number one, we made plays when we had to. We got turnovers. That's number one, and then we capitalized on those turnovers. Number two. So McGloin's 2 touchdowns came in the red zone after turnovers. It only took 3 plays to get those 2 touchdowns. So we have to keep that in mind. So we have the ability to make plays, and then the other 2 touchdowns came off 2 large runs from GA3. So we made the plays when we had to. We were explosive when we needed to be. So, I mean, that's where the score differentiates itself too. It was everything else in between those big plays that causes us to go, okay, we need to see some improvement heading into Green Bay. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we are going to break down some of the players that we were keeping an eye on and some of our stars and some of our maybe some of our guys that we're like, hey, we need to see a little bit more from you. So please stay tuned and we'll be right back.
Carpets is celebrating the holidays with a huge inventory clearance sale. We have the best prices and guaranteed installation. Why would you buy anywhere else? Whether you're looking for laminate, vinyl, carpet, tile, or wood, we have it all. Save up to 50% on selected items. Room size rugs, only $69. Visit Carpets at one of our 6 Bay Area locations or call us at 1-800-355-4MMM.
All right, welcome back to the W2W Review. I'm the Oakland Knight, joined by the Raider Pirate, and now we're going to get into the part of the segment where we're going to talk about some of the players and what we saw from them, some of them that we liked and some of them maybe that we just didn't like. So, Pirate, I'm going to start with you. What do we got on your end? I'm a player that you liked that stood out to you offensively.
Well, there were a number of different players that stood out. That's the thing when you're looking at the preseason, we're going to be seeing first-team guys, second-team guys, and third-team guys. There's guys that we obviously want to make this roster that are rookies or free agents. But if we were just looking at the starters per se, and for me it was Holmes made a nice catch, Crabtree did really, really well. I thought that Latavius Murray, had the one good run. But the guy that I sort of want to focus on is Clive Walford. Latavius Murray's longest run only went for 11 yards, but it was thanks to a block by Clive Walford, a guy that everybody keeps saying is not really a good blocker. This is a guy that I think, again, has a tremendous amount of talent. He's young, he's had his ups and downs already kind of early on. The accident this year, the knee problem from the year before. But again, I see that this guy is going to play a big role. McGloin hitting him when he broke open in the seam for that touchdown. I mean, he was just wide open, right? So either somebody blew a coverage. Unfortunately, I don't have the film. I was supposed to record it, and it's not going to be shown again until Tuesday night. Wow. I don't know why they're doing that. They're playing games over and over again of every other football team, but they're not going to play the Raiders again until Tuesday night at 9 p.m. So I won't have that for this week, but I will have all of the other games, following that. So, I just thought that he's big, he's strong, he's fast. He's really dedicated himself, I think, to being a complete tight end, being able to block, being able to get out and be an active part of this offense. So that's a guy that I'm looking forward to in this next game coming up to see, what they can do offensively.
Yeah, I think Clive Walford is going to be a star. And I really liked it. And the fact that he was wide open, I mean, it doesn't get any easier than that. And you can blame the defense for blowing a coverage, but at the same time, what you want from your tight end is to be able to put himself in that position to where he's good enough blocker where they have to respect that there could be a run and he could slip out like that. That's how the greats play. Another guy for me that I want to touch upon and is someone that's not really talked about a lot. I thought John Feliciano played pretty solid himself. I think he handled the ball under center really well. I think his blocks were crisp.
Yeah.
I think he ran the second team offensive line to perfection because none of our quarterbacks got sacked. And so you always have to look at the leader of the offensive line like you would look at the Mike linebacker, right? So Feliciano really made a name for himself. I mean, yeah, he was playing against lesser opponents at this point probably, but it was good to see, there was no bad exchanges from center to quarterback, and everybody seemed to hold their assignments properly. I mean, come on. I mean, GA3 was breaking off these runs against our second-string offensive line, and they're doing the work, and that has to give credit to Feliciano for that. Any thoughts on that, partner?
Yeah, I mean, that was the one thing that I noticed also was he was snapping that ball back to McGloin in the shotgun, and it looked nice, right? For a long time, when the starting center goes out and then you bring in kind of that second string guy, those shotgun passes or the punts, if you're not using your long snapper, they're iffy, right? It's all of a sudden it's like, okay, here's this guy and he throws it over the head of the quarterback or he gets it at the quarterback's feet. That was one thing that I was really impressed with was I just saw him getting that ball on a line back there to the quarterback. And you said that he was playing against, second, but that's pretty much where this guy's at, right? So for him to be able to do a good job in there, let's face it, he's not going to take Rodney Hudson's job unless something drastic happens. I never understand why people don't come in and start screaming for Feliciano over Hudson the way that they will for McGloin over Carr or somebody else for Cooper because he's dropped a couple of balls in preseason. It makes no sense to me. Another guy that I thought, did a really good job, and again, I'm going to move away at this point from our starters as we were, just talking about Feliciano right now. But I really liked what DeAndre Washington brought to the table. This is a kid that, again, he came in the second quarter and he basically got stuffed a couple of times to start off the game, and I was thinking like, oh wow, okay, maybe this guy's not so good. I mean, I saw him bouncing a lot of runs outside. I saw that he was able to run up the middle a little bit, but his first couple of runs, I think he lost a yard the first run, and then I think he ran for a yard or two the second run. But that third run that he had, he was able to get through the line, and then as he was running, he made that move, and then he was gone. I mean, and he just, he picked up, I think it was 25 yards. But that wasn't the only thing. I mean, like I said, this guy reminds me so much of Maurice Jones-Drew, and I think he's going to remind Jack Del Rio of Maurice Jones-Drew. Right. Small, low to the ground, powerful guy. But he brings that element of just being able to catch the ball. Cook drops back, and he's looking around. That's another guy that was fairly impressive. He drops back, he's looking around, and here comes DeAndre Washington on that little circle route where he sneaks out of the backfield and then comes across the middle of the field. He catches the ball, and then he just takes it for 30 yards. It's that type of play that really shows you not only is he versatile if you hand him off the ball, but he's able to get out there and catch the ball, and that doesn't bode too well for someone like Tywan Jones. Now, right after that play, and I'm not going to talk about it, I'm going to let you go ahead and talk about it. George Atkinson III, rips off that 53-yard run, right? Right. So, I mean, offensively, this kid kind of went in there. He showed the game wasn't too big for him. He had over 5 yards a carry. I don't know the exact number, 5.2 yards or something like that. It was lower than his average in college, which I think was 5.6 or 5.9. But still, to average 5 yards, even against this type of competition, I think is really good. So, when I saw him out there, I just thought to myself, I think this kid can play. And again, if you look at both of these guys, Atkinson and DeAndre Washington, if these guys had a little bit of time behind the big boys, right, like Latavius Murray's getting, wow, watch out.
Yeah, I liked what DeAndre Washington brought to the table. In fact, that 32-yard catch really spelled it for me. And I liked what you said about Jack Del Rio looking at him as a Maurice Jones-Drew. That's only going to give him confidence and actually a good chance to make the squad just off that alone, because Jack knows what he's looking for. If he's looking for a guy like Maurice Jones-Drew that gave him a lot of success in Jacksonville, this guy has a lot of the traits that's going to help him to make this roster.
Yeah. So
let's go ahead, because you gave me the lovely duty of talking about GA3, a guy that you've been pumping up for a while now, and wow, He was amazing. He was able to do the things that I didn't expect. This guy's been on the roster for this will be his third year now. And what I've seen personally from GA3 the last 2 years in preseason was a really strong, powerful, fast, straight runner. And he had problems of holding onto the football. And so I was on a question mark with him coming into this season that he was going to, this is going to be his last shot to really show what he has. Can he be the full running back? We know that he kicks returns. He's good on special teams. What can he bring to the table? And man, he showed us a lot. He showed us a guy that has vision, speed, and cutting ability. When you look at that 53-yard run, everything about it was amazing. He hits the hole, he sees it, he jump cuts it, he breaks it to the outside. Now this is where it got really, really interesting. This is where he showcased his burst and speed. There was 2 defenders of the Arizona Cardinals that had angles on them, 2 of them. And I was like, okay, they're going to push him out of bounds, still a good run. But then all of a sudden he turns on the jets and outruns them both and destroys their angles. And I was like, wow, that's the burst that we always heard about. That's that 4.3 speed that we keep hearing about. It was reminiscent of what we saw from Latavius Murray. Now, keep that in mind. When we saw Latavius Murray break out in that Kansas City game and followed it up in San Diego, and he did a good job against the Niners as well, we were all on the bandwagon. And I remember Reggie McKenzie, and I believe it was Sperano at the time, was saying, hey, it was only one game. We got to see how this translates. And we should always have that mindset when we're looking at GA3 too. So I think what he did though is run his way into a better opportunity this week against Green Bay, where he could actually take maybe some of the number 2 snaps. Maybe he gets a look even with the ones to see if he can capitalize on what he did this past Friday. His 35-yard run now, once again, I mean, he broke it to the outside. We saw the burst of speed. This time the guy had the perfect angle, was right in front of him. And then he showed us the ability to stop his movement, jump around the guy, and then burst out quickly again to outrun the other defenders coming up from behind. So this guy showed us he's more than just one directional type runner, that he's all just speed. This guy showed his ability to really, really put the burners on and do some damage. I was very impressed. And like I said, if there's anybody that should be fearing their position right now on this football team as far as it goes to the running backs, I think it's Taiwan Jones. Yeah. So I just look at it as, Latavius Murray should get the nod at number 1 because they have faith in him. They believe in him. They're giving him the opportunity. These guys will have time to showcase their abilities for the next 3 games in preseason to contest Latavius Murray. But when I look at it, I'm looking at the top 3 backs that I'm looking at as after one preseason game. So let's keep that in mind. That would be Latavius Murray, DeAndre Washington, and now GA3. We haven't seen Jalen Richards yet. We probably won't see him until he gets into Tennessee. So once we see this guy, he shakes it up a little bit more. But Taiwan Jones is getting up there in age. His contract is high. And one of the things that bode well for a guy like Taiwan Jones was he was a top-notch gunner on special teams. But this week we saw a guy like Toomer step into that role and do an excellent job. And George Atkinson himself was a great special teamer. So now here's a guy that can play the Taiwan Jones role. He's fast, he's quick, he's got speed. If you give me Latavius Murray, DeAndre Washington as a complementary back, and a guy like GA3 on the squad that could actually replace Latavius Murray at any given moment, same kind of size, tall, big, fast, powerful runner, I think I'm at this point I'm liking the thought process anyway. Let's let it all play out. But your thoughts, partner?
Yeah, well, like I said, if you take a look at somebody like Taiwan Jones, he brought a specific skill set to the party. And this has been a recurring theme that we've talked about over and over again. If you have somebody that's multidimensional, you're going to keep that person around. It just makes more sense. If you've got a guy like George Atkinson who can play special teams like Taiwan Jones can, but he can also run the ball, get to the outside. If you've got a guy like DeAndre Washington who can catch the ball like Taiwan Jones did, but also run between the tackles, and Atkinson and Washington are able to do that. all of a sudden you start seeing that a guy like Tywan Jones just might be expendable. That is not to say after preseason game 1. So for all the people that will get up in arms, we're not saying that. We're just saying that there's a thought process that's going on here. Like we said before, Jack Del Rio went through the process in Jacksonville where he took a guy that everybody said couldn't be an every down player and turned him into an every down player. There were other guys that were bigger, stronger, and had the starting positions before Maurice Jones-Drew got there. Right. So as these guys come in, the conventional wisdom is, hey, they're too small. They're not going to be able to do this. They're not going to be able to do that. Jack's already had that, so he's already open to the possibility. And any coach that's had something that's been successful in the past is apt to go back and try to revisit that to see if they can create the same type of success in the future. The one thing that Jack wants is somebody that's going to get in there, put their head down, don't fumble the ball, get the tough yards. If you're a game changer, great, but you got to show me that you're tough. And I think George Atkinson came with a chip on his shoulder. I think he knows now what it takes finally. He's got to put it all out on the line. He's got to go out there. He's got to do what he's got to do. But I'm sure that that's going to put the fear of God in the defensive coordinator, because when somebody can get to the outside like that, like you said, when he put on the afterburners, those guys had the angles on him.
Right.
So when you're a defensive back and you're like, oh, here he comes, I got him, and then all of a sudden it's like Bo Jackson type speed. Now, nobody's comparing him again to Bo Jackson, but what I'm saying is defensive backs would say all the time, I was sure I had him in my crosshairs. Right. But at the end of the day, they would miss by an inch, 6 inches, a foot, 2 feet, that type of thing. So in a game of inches, when this guy's able to get past you by a foot, forget about it. He's going, now that's going to open up the outside and it's going to allow you to get things in the middle. So it's going to keep the defense honest. And, everybody's saying it's going to be a long road for this kid, but I don't know. I mean, I think he consistently has been getting better, and I think he's showing game-breaking ability.
And like I said, if anything, he has earned his opportunity to move up the depth chart, at least for one game, and give him a little bit more of showcasing against some maybe topper talent on defense and maybe behind some of the bigger offensive linemen we have. So it's going to be something that we all need to keep a close eye on moving forward. All right, Raider Nation, we're out of time for today, but we want to thank you for watching the W2W review, and we also want to remind you that you could find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, all at The Will to Win. And if you have any questions or concerns, you can reach us by email at thew2w@gmail.com. That is thew2w@gmail.com. We also are going to be launching a new channel called the W2W Review, where you could find all of our daily content. So please look for that at the end of every video and subscribe. All right, Raider Nation, until tomorrow, I'm the Oakland Knight, that's the Raider Pirate, and you guys stay Raider strong. Hey there, I'm Jason Smith, also known as the Oakland Knight. We'd like to thank you for watching the Will to Win broadcast here on YouTube. And if you would like to stay up to date for more content like this, go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below. Or you could click any one of the videos on the side to watch more great videos. Thank you once again, and stay Raider strong.